All right, I think we are live. Welcome everybody. I feel like it's purple overrun, but we're gonna fix that. Danielle, how are you doing?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing good. You're sunny Arizona, right? Arizona's doing good.
Yeah, sunny. We got a little bit of rain this week, but it is still hot.
Yeah, anytime I'm complaining, my daughters were all born there, so anytime there is a complaint at all coming from me, my daughters and I just pull up, what the weather is like in Arizona, and it's like a reminder of although they're ridiculous. They definitely were born with the Arizona blood, so I always have to I'm like, yeah, the reason other your friends aren't like that, girls, are because they weren't born in Arizona. So it's funny how that all works. All right, let's get this started. Thanks everybody for jumping in. This will be episode 272, as you can see right up there, which will be tomorrow's episode. Today's episode 271 is live in all of your podcast players. We're talking about the attention economy and the conversation I had with Kevin Rose and Ryan Carson last night on Twitter Spaces, and really CCO and really why we need to stop giving crypto bros a whole bunch of attention. So I think you'll like that podcast episode. It is out in all of your podcast players. And yeah, we're gonna get started. We're 90s. I mean, this is gonna be a fun conversation. So Danielle, I'm gonna throw you down. Let's. All right. And then we're gonna kick into the intro and we're gonna get going. Here we go.
NFT 365, the first daily podcast on NFTs with your host, Fanzo, talking crypto, blockchain, Web3, non-fungible tokens, metaverse, and... What the fuck is a non-fungible token? We'll get to that.
What's up, friends? Welcome back to NFT 365. This is episode 272. I was planning on doing like a 252, something like that, but welcome back. One of the things that, I love is, most people actually probably don't even know this that listen to the podcast, but one of the things I was hired as a keynote speaker for a long while was actually conversations on generations. And I wrote a book that no one's ever read because it got stuck in legal, but it was called The Millennial Mindset. And I've always been I just love just the whole generational conversation. I'm a huge nostalgia fan. Hence why I got some Care Bears, NFTs as of recently. But we're going to have some fun, talk a little bit 90s. But before we do that, got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Crypto Business Conference happening in October. It's for all those that want to learn, Web3, NFTs, metaverse, crypto, all of those fun things. I'll mention a little bit more at the end of the show, but of course, there is a link in the bio for you to check out that event. And, we do our throwback for our Mint 365 each and every episode. And this time we are going back. We're going back a little bit into the Wayback Machine. I like to say it's BH before the hack. Or before my wallet drain, which is, hurts a little bit. But it's actually back to March 1st. And we minted on that day a 90s Babes. And so this is the 90s Babes NFT, which, turned into becoming good friends with that team. Many of you know about, how much fun I had at their party in New York, which I think we'll talk about here in a minute. But we minted this really cool, the art is, really something that I've loved. And so this is the one that on the screen for those that are watching. If those in audio, it's we will link to it in the show notes. So if you're in the show notes, you can actually scroll down, and underneath the word Mint 365, you'll see a link to the tweet where we've kind of put out our art. And this is the art, and I love it. I'm neon, I'm loud and proud. Jean jackets. There's everything from the smack wrist bracelets to the potato chips to the blockbuster. There's a lot of fun things within this art. And one of the things that also that you might have remembered back then, as when my wallet got compromised, there was I believe 17 or 18 projects that within the first 24 hours reached out to me immediately and were like, I can't believe your wallet got compromised. I know you put us in your collection. Can I airdrop you or give you a replacement one? And actually the very first one that I do believe that ever landed back into my wallet was actually a 90s Babes. And it's a 90s babe rocking some rainbow, holding some boss chips there. And I remember it, for me, even at the time I was like, well, that NFT hasn't got compromised, but I'm afraid they got my wallet. And it was a very interesting time, and anyone can go back and listen to those episodes. They were very raw episodes as I was recording and still buying an NFT, going through that whole thing back in March 12th or 13th or 14th in that time frame. But I will say, like, just knowing that there were good people in the community and good people that were, running Web3 NFT projects, to me was just, another sign and belief that, why I'm in this space and what this space is all about. And with that being said, the person that actually made that all happen is actually today's guest. Danielle, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you for, we become fast friends. Tell the people a little about who you are, your background, and then we'll get into some of the questions I have for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, excited to be here today, Fanzo. Love the podcast and excited to be on here. So for anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Danielle Petty. I am the creative director and one of the co-founders behind the 90s Babes. I am also one of the co-founders of the new Self-Love Club that just rolled out. And a little bit about my background. Yeah, I always been really deep into tech. I used to work at Google, kind of came from that side of the tech background, got really into marketing. So been working in the marketing field for the last 9 years now, and then launched our own marketing agency, which we've been running for the last 6 years alongside my business partner, Steve. And then, he's actually the one that dragged me into Web3. Thankful for him. I was very much like a lot of other people out there who just couldn't wrap my head around a JPEG and what it had to do with everything. And, I had a really interesting first exposure with him because he works at Charged Particles, which they utilize an extremely impressive protocol where they're able to put NFTs inside of NFTs. So like right off the bat, my mind opened up to the potential of what these NFTs could do and the utility. So that's a little bit about how I got here.
I love that. I love that. And, we connected, we've done a Zoom call together. We got to hang out at an event in Arizona. Then we also got to hang out in New York. And I mean, to me, that's, it's the beauty of the, Web3 space. But we also, I think we also bonded on marketing side of the house, also kind of like the whole, good component. We're going to talk a little bit about the Self-Love Club as well, because I love what you're doing there. But I wanted to kind of kick it into, first off, thank you for being one of those people that, one of the first founders that reached out and were like, hey, how can I help? How can I replace? And, for those that, as you're listening, 90s Babes is close to minting out. And we're going to talk a little bit about the project itself. I myself, I think total, I have at least 10 myself personally of the project. It is at 0.03 for mint. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I set that up because for everyone listening, we talk a lot about what projects should do with their owners and their founders and how you have to, build trust, deliver on your promises. And the reputation, I think a lot of the way projects have been led over the year, it hasn't been years, has been a lot of it is like, wait till mint out or wait till I get my budget or try to convince people to jump in. And when we talk throughout this episode, I want people to remember what, Danielle and Steve and the team have been doing throughout this entire process in a true slow burn mint. And I think part of the reason that I'm bullish on this project is because it is a slow burn mint that has built a really strong foundation and strong core. And so, Danielle, I'm curious, leading up to the launch, leading up to the, you had the art, you have the ideas. How was that all for you guys as far as like what you were excited for, expectations? I mean, it was early March, which none of us knew what March, April, May, June was going to lead to. And we were coming through a wild January, February, where a lot of very successful women-led projects, women art had jumped off, but there was a lot of kind of an interesting time. So talk to us a little bit about what was it like kind of like pre-launch and some of your guys kind of like wishes and kind of things that you guys were looking at, there in the beginning of March.
Oh man. Yeah. It feels like so long ago and also yesterday at the same time, but yeah, leading up to the launch was crazy. I mean, been in marketing for the last 10 years. And so we really thought, we had a good handle on what to expect and what going into it. But, there is absolutely no doubt that Web3 is a different beast. And so, as prepared as we could be, there was still so many different things that happened leading up to it that we really just couldn't have anticipated. You mentioned the other women-led collections being extremely successful right around that time. It was definitely almost like a trend or a fad or like a buzzword to be a women-led project. And so that was really interesting. We watched our like followers grow organically, you know, up to 20,000, like relatively without ease. You know, a lot of people really just believed in what we were building and loved the 90s and the nostalgia of it. I really think there was something about the fact, you know, we really try to tap into those simpler times, those times that we all remember back in the 90s before tech was everywhere, and just like what that used to be like. So I think a lot of people really resonated with that. But you know, right before our mint, I want to say it was like a day or two before, actually before I get there. So our team is spread out all across the globe. You know, we have everyone in different countries all over the place. And our artist, Erica, at the time was living in Ukraine. And so it was, you know, we were all working, waiting for the mint to happen. And right before we opened our mint was when the war broke out in Ukraine. You know, so that like 2 weeks before our mint was actually really stressful and really, I mean, kind of sad and morbid. You know, Erica living in Ukraine, she knew what was happening and what was coming. And she was talking to us about the stress and everything that was going on. And, you know, there was like final art revisions that we were changing and doing things like that. So, you know, myself and Lara and some of the other girls on the team were really, you know, kind of stepping up to take over and help Erica out so that she didn't have to worry about things as much. So got to, you know, test out my my Photoshop skills and really get invested into that. But you know, the day before we opened our mint was when the war broke out, and so we were really faced with a decision. You know, what do we do? Do we push them in? Do we go live? You know, our advisors, the market, a lot of people were like, now is not the time. You know, but we had an obligation to our team and you know, to Erica and to everybody, to our community, to really push forward. And so despite the idea of, is this going to be a quick mint or what that's going to look like, you know, we felt confident moving forward. We had the support of our community moving forward, and really just wanted to do what we could to take care of our team and, you know, Erica and the rest of the team members. So yeah, God, those 2 weeks before and leading up to it really were just very chaos and chaotic. You know, but as soon as we opened up the pre-sale, I think like 2,500 mints were gone within like 3 minutes. And it was so rewarding and so satisfying. You know, we got to get Erica somewhere safe and her whole family somewhere safe through doing that, which was really our main priority. And then have been continuing to slow mint and stay strong since.
Yeah, you know, I love that part of the story, and I appreciate that kind of that vulnerability there too. And I will say, like, you know, I think actually one of our first touch points was you were also hosting Twitter Spaces on mental health and awareness, and you were bringing in other women-led projects that were launching around the same time you were at, different leaders in each one. And I point that out because, you know, the idea of it being like kind of a trend, I think there was a view from the outside that like, you know, all these women-led projects that are being successful. And I like to say, like, we minted a couple in December and November in our collection that didn't mint out until February. We looked at them as, wow, these are amazing projects, right? And for me, like Alpha Girl Club and Women Rise are two that come to my mind immediately. And I loved both of those projects. I loved what they stood for, their vision, the artist. And it was funny because like when people, as other projects were kind of getting some, you know, attention, rightfully so, in January, for me, it was kind of like a beautiful, like, it's about damn time, right? Like where that kind of came forward. But I also feel like, you know, not only did you guys do a great job of kind of like bringing that like worlds together, but I feel like during that time, like there was, I mean, when I went back and looked at, you know, even from our podcast downloads, I mean, that month of March, I mean, we were getting, it was something like 700 new subscribers a day were subscribing to the podcast. And it was like, I mean, that's the momentum of NFTs. I'm curious. Okay, so when we're going through the launch, I mean, I feel like I was sitting on the other side, right? I minted, you know, as there was that big splash. Excited for the reveal. There was lots of, you know, the art kind of trickling out, and then you guys did something special that I absolutely loved. I'm pretty sure I talked about on the podcast that week, but there was like I think you had teased out like there was a hidden trait, there was a trait that could be more valuable or for, you know, depending on who's holding it. And I remember like, you know, the Twitter chat and your Discord with everybody was trying to like guess and figure out what was going on. And I guess talk to us a little bit about, like, so I guess you had this partnership pre-mint and it was one of the properties. Let the audience know a little bit about how that all kind of came to life.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was definitely kind of the universe doing for us what we couldn't do, because it was we had this vision that, our different attributes, the accessories in her hand would unlock a different reward and a different perk for our holders. We really, really worked really hard to put ourselves in the shoes of our holders and think, what would we want as we were buying this, right? And so Moonlight Rollers actually reached out to us, and they have these absolutely incredible roller skates. I mean, seriously, if you have not seen them, highly recommend you check them out. But she reached out to us, and was showing us her roller skates. And so we ended up working out something where all of our holders who had a roller skate in their hand were eligible to claim a free pair of skates. So, getting to bring that IRL was so fun to see.
I mean, I remember when you guys dropped that announcement in a Twitter space, I had OpenSea up and I had 3 tabs open, and I was literally trying to buy every roller skate one that was set to actually purchase, because I had actually just bought my oldest daughter roller skates for Christmas. So this was like coming off of Christmas, and this is like the worst, brag, but like roller skating was my high school, middle school life. I worked at a skating rink. I DJ'd at a skating rink. I lived pretty much at a skating rink. I mean, I had like 3 pairs of quad skates. I also played roller hockey and ice hockey, but like roller skate, like the world is like, that's like one of my favorite things. I get to go with my daughters, like being able to relive it with my daughters. And so like when I saw that as a trait, as a giveaway, I just thought it was, so well done. And I think I even mentioned, maybe I'm on the podcast, about like, I can't wait because this is going to be a trend and we're going to see more people do it. I think the market going where the market did kind of changes that dynamic. I'm making that as easy as it might be. But I'm curious, since then, right? So we're talking March, all the way up until August. Not only have you guys been continuing to deliver, but we've got to hang out at IRL events. We got to, some of the things from Twitter Spaces to actively still doing some giveaways and campaigns. I'm curious, just for those that are out there, right? I think there's a lot of people that are afraid to press the damn button because they're afraid it won't mint out, right? They won't get that 2,500 rush, right? Or they're afraid, like, well, like, what do I do, like, to either continue momentum or respark momentum? And I know, like, I mean, this is all learning, right? I think you kicked it off at the beginning, right? This is not like our Web2 marketing days. There's a lot of things that you kind of have to try out. So like, what were some of the things that you've done since that March that you've like, hey, this worked, or you tried and you're like, I'm not sure if that would have worked? Because I mean, you're less than 400 away from minting out. Not financial advice, listeners, but I mean, just look at my bag. We got one in the project. I mean, how can you not love Danielle and Steve and the team? So I mean, I think we can work our magic there. But talk to us a little bit about some of the things you guys have done since March till now to give people just kind of a little bit of insight on that whole journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because we've been saying this since day one, and we stay true to this. We're just getting started. That's something we've been saying from day one, because we didn't expect, especially with the conditions of the market. I mentioned the war and everything that was going on when we launched. We didn't expect an instant sellout. We had a feeling we'd have to really work for it and show our community that we're not going anywhere, and that we're going to continue to deliver, and we're going to continue to add value and show up. So that's really what we've been driven to do. Outside of just executing on our roadmap and the different items there, I had 10,000 books show up at my house last week as a part of our 20% milestone of ordering the I Love My Happy Mama book by Blake Nolan. So that's one component. We have the IRL parties, but ultimately that's been the tactic, is that continue to show up. We really believe that, there's a lot of projects that came into the space and maybe they got a lot of hype right off the bat. They're nowhere to be found now. They've completely fizzled out, and they're no longer continuing to deliver for the community. Even though we haven't minted out yet, we really stand by wanting to do it differently and continuing to provide value. And honestly, our community really seems to receive it and reciprocate it well. We don't have a single futter in our Discord. We don't have a single person asking, when burn supply. Not one. We have a community of people who love the 90s and support what we're doing. And they realize that it's just a matter of time before the right people see our project and we can continue to grow from here.
I mean, that's the answer right there. The right people, right? And the reason that there aren't, the projects that goal is to mint out, no one can ever say, like, if your goal is minting out, it can also be that we get all of the right people that value our utility and value our mission, because let's face it, that's not how it works. I also love that you said we're all just getting started, because it also, we just launched, for those that are listening that aren't aware, what we're calling like a sister podcast. So it's actually a second podcast that is live in all of your favorite podcast players, called Getting Started with NFTs. Just on that, we're all just getting started, as I believe as well. And it's actually 11 curated episodes in the order that we believe people should learn and get started with NFTs. So Danielle teed me up kind of nicely on that little promo to our sister podcast. I like to think of it as the podcast. If you have a friend or a family member that's annoying you, they don't understand what you do or why you're in NFTs, and they want to get in, but you're like, I don't want to deal with them, send them this podcast. Literally, it's 11 episodes. That'll hopefully answer a lot of their questions. But Danielle, I love that you also mentioned like the reason, like the fudders, or like those that only talk about the floor price, or those that only that are like want to do the same as every other project, is if you're really attracting like that style of collection. Now, the interesting thing, like I guess if we would go back, let's just say April, May, the projects that were maybe getting the wrong people in, but were selling out, floor prices were either holding steady or hanging pretty high, because people are flipping in, people are making money. But if we like just turn back last 60 days, and I said this before the show jokingly, but like there are a lot of projects that minted out, floor price went up nicely, was holding, and now are below 0.01 Ethereum for their floor, because there was really no one was really valuing being in the project. They were valuing that, hey, it was making them some money, and maybe they were valuing some components of it. And of course, as soon as the market tanked, everyone kind of flipped out of it. The beauty of what you guys have been doing, not only, you can mint at 0.03, the floor price is a little bit above that, right? So it's even still encouraging people to mint and hopefully mint out. Let's make that happen this week, which would be pretty cool. But I would also say, like, 90s Babes, you put on the show at New York, right? We have to be, legit. And you teamed up with one of my, favorite humans in the whole world, Sandy Carter, with Unstoppable Domains. And Sandy and I go way back. She was really one of the first people to ever hire me as an influencer, and kind of validated my role in B2B back in 2012. And I love what she's over at Unstoppable Domains. Well, you guys teamed up for a party there on Friday night. And if anyone follows me on social knows, the pictures that have been out there, that it was the most fun that Carter and I had. And I know, shout out to Delphi Cat and Drew and Kevin, who on our team were also there at NFT NYC, but they left early. And so Carter and I had to hold down the fort. But we'll talk a little bit about the party, because we had a ball and we got to hang out like 4 o'clock and eat pizza together. But and you even brought the family, which I also thought was a beautiful, nice touch. But talk about leading into that. Like, I think there's some people that look at NFT NYC and these events as like, hey, this is the people spending their money to show utility, and then this is the ones that are minted out to get famous or to gain popularity. But like, I absolutely loved it when you had messaged me about that you were doing the party on that night. I was like, well, I'm not leaving a day early, that's for sure. But talk to me a little bit about like, what was your thought process on creating the party, you brought in lots of partners, also some partners from the rally ecosystem that we're a part of as well. Talk to us a little bit about how that all came together, and what was your kind of goals. And just from my side, you far exceeded any goals that you guys would have had. That was a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love hearing that. Honestly, it's like makes me excited, because it exceeded all of our expectations as well. It was so why did we do it? Ultimately, like I said a little bit ago, sell out or not, we plan to deliver on our roadmap and to bring all the things to life that we told our community and our holders that we would. And one of the things on our roadmap was the IRL parties. And honestly, it's kind of one of the things that us as a team, and I think our community, was looking the most forward to. So, we made a little roadmap revision and moved that up, and we're able to execute on that. And wow, talk about full circle. We were able to pull in a ton of partners to help, cover the party and get everything set up and to make it as incredible as we did. Huge shout out to Unstoppable Domains and Sandy Carter. They were amazing to work with and so much fun to throw the party with. It exceeded our expectations. I remember we opened our Eventbrite to get signups, we opened it and immediately had 700 signups, and we're like, okay, great. And then 2 days later, we heard that WoW was having Madonna, and Steve Aoki was going that night, and Dead Mouse was going that night, and then Snoop Dogg and Eminem were at 8 Fest.
Yep.
And I remember we had like a little internal huddle of like, okay, what's this gonna look like? Who's gonna show up? And I mean, absolutely amazed and blown away. Like, not only did we pack the house, we had a line out the door the entire night. I remember the poor venue guy was like a little frantic at the door. He's like, we can't let anyone else in. But it just really showed. I mean, everyone who was there had so much fun. We had so much fun. We got to meet so many babe holders, and it really, like, I know a couple times like Steve and I just kept going up to like a high place in the club and just like kind of looking at everything and watching it, because like we couldn't believe like what it looked like seeing it come full circle. But yeah, it was an incredible experience.
No, I love all of that, but I'm not sure if I believe the last part, because I don't think I saw you stop. You literally were working every angle that, like, Steve and I hung out for a little bit. We hung out, like, he was taking some photos and video, and I'm like, we just like watched you. You were like the Energizer Bunny, like bouncing, saying hi to everybody, making sure people are taken care of, going from the front door to the back door. And I think that to me is also just a sign of, you were not only putting the work, but you were like really caring about, the experience and everyone that was there. I mean, 90s music blaring. I mean, we were on the couches, fist pumping. I had 2 days. I reminded myself that I was old because my knees were sore. And I'm like, what the hell did it was 90s babes party. And I loved that component too, because there were some friends that I didn't know had 90s babes. And there was actually some of our listeners that they were like, Brian, we knew that event was where we could go because we knew that you were a holder and that you would show up. And it was funny because it was like, wow, you waited to that last part, but it was like that commingling of like, 90s love and kind of coming together. And I also think like just the idea, like, I don't know, I mean, someone can correct me. I don't know any other projects that hadn't minted out that put on a full on, party like that. And I'm talking full on for those that, there's a couple of videos floating around, and I'm wearing a Goblin t-shirt that, I stick out, and we had a good time. We were dancing on the front stage, and that was all captured. And so, I just loved that component, right? And when I was talking to Sandy Carter about it, at the event, and Sandy was like, loves you and loves what 90s Babes is about. And I also think like brands that are looking at like bigger picture, and Sandy, of course, with women in Web3 and the things that she's working on, I think is so important. But I want to kind of tap back into, I know you have the self-love club, but I also think and actually this is something that just, jarred my memory while we were talking now, is, like I've been sharing, we connected, I was in a couple of the spaces on mental health, and then you and I connected kind of like on our shared kind of journey of how we kind of go through our own personal struggles and like transparency and putting ourselves out. And I remember like the conversation we had, like it was really, down to earth. It was great just being able to connect with you and get to know you better. And like, kind of like, hey, how do we help? How do we move forward? But also, how do we, let people know that they're not alone on this journey? I'm curious for you, how has this whole thing been for you as far as Web3 and like the balance of, not only being a mom and running a project and all the demands that go on with that, but like, life's pressures. Talk to us a little bit about how you've kind of, handled that and some of the things that have come involved in that way.
Oh man, yeah. If we're being honest, I haven't always handled it very well. It's been a struggle to find a balance. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that. Balance is something that I have to continuously strive for. I'll have my weeks where I am like an Energizer Bunny and I'm like, and I can just go, 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 go. And then, the mom guilt sinks in and I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't play enough Minecraft with him today, or we didn't go to the park, or, and then I'll have other other weeks where it's like, man, I don't feel like I got anything done. I've been kind of lounging around. So it's definitely been a struggle and something that I have to continuously strive to find that balance between, and that's actually kind of how the self-love club came to be. And it really was, I was starting to realize that, that balance just isn't really present. And it's a struggle because I think, coming into Web3, I remember it was kind of like the joke was like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, which is hilarious and terrifying, and definitely not healthy, you know. And so, but it's easy to get caught up in because you don't want to miss out. And, you know, it is easy to feel like you're behind or you're playing catch up. So, yeah, I guess my answer would be that it's something I strive for and I continue to work on every day.
Well, you're definitely not alone. And I've actually, like, for me, like, just the idea of balance is like one that, like, I kind of gave up on like the need for balance and more of like just the need for like knowing that I can like identify, you know, my priorities and my world, like, and how they, because like, you're right. Like we have to almost like forgive ourselves in some cases and then give ourselves permission in others. And I've been one that, you know, I will openly admit, I was one that would say like, you know, well, I can sleep when I'm dead. Right. Like that was a phrase that came out of my mouth, while at the same time, not, you know, trying to stop the grind life and the FOMO life that exists in Web3, where everyone, you know, it used to be like a brag, like, oh, we ran a 19-hour Twitter space, and you're like, why is that a brag? Like, I mean, like, like 19 hours and you were on your phone talking to strangers and pictures, and I think we've made a little bit of a change there, but I also think with that change, actually, there's a little bit less connection and touch points, which I think then requires a little bit of that self-love, right? I think a little bit of that, you know, reminding ourselves that, hey, if we're doing our best and that we can take care of ourselves. And I'm also curious, just from your take on, you know, like when we look at the space and like who's still here, right? There's exciting because those that are here are kind of like, we're locking arms and we're like, together, we're going to get through this. But it also can be a little bit, you know, frustrating. And you have a, you know, background, you know, leaving Google. And I can guess that when you were at Google, you would have never imagined, you know, this would be, you know, such a prevalent part of your life. But I'm curious, like looking at it from like a Web3 journey idea, like, how are you looking at like moving forward and some of the things that you're excited about in regards to like what we've all learned about ourselves and really this space over the last couple of months?
Oh man, yeah, you know, there's so much I'm excited for. I think, you know, a lot of things you mentioned, that the people that are still here, you know, I think that's something that actually kind of excites me. I think a lot of the people, and you know, it just in my personal opinion, I've seen several people who were in it just for the money, just for the flip, you know, just for whatever that you know motive was. They're not as active anymore. They're not around anymore. The people who I do see that are still really active are the people who really believe in like what can be built here and the change that could be made here. And like it's the people that want to be a part of making that change. Which that I think is really beautiful. I definitely want to lock hands with all of them, like everyone in that position. Because it's, you know, I think we really are creating something beautiful here, and there is a shift happening, you know. I remember the 19-hour Twitter space. I tried to hang, did not make it very long, but it was so funny because like there was part of me that was like, dang it, I can't do it.
Yep.
You know, and I love seeing the prioritization shift, right? Like we're seeing a lot more people talk about the need of taking care of yourself and the need of wellness. And I mean, I know you and I can relate to this, Fanzo. Like NFT NYC, so much fun. I think I tried to squeeze in like 10 or 12 events in like 3 days or something ridiculous. And I came home and I was sick for a month.
Yep.
Um, you know, and it's funny because I was kind of like kicking my own ass afterwards of like, you know, like I knew better, right? Like I knew like running around from place to place and getting lack of sleep and eating donuts for breakfast. And like, I knew that it was going to catch up with me, you know, the stress of trying to get the event ready. Like, I remember even telling my husband, like, I'm definitely going to be sick coming home from this, you know. It was like I already knew what I was setting myself up for. You know, and I love starting to see, I think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah.
A lot of people realize like if we're going to be here and we're going to be the people making the change, we've got to do it in a sustainable way, right? Like, and so, you know, that is why I love seeing how many people are starting to prioritize wellness and mental health. And I know, Fanzo, you've always been a huge advocate, which is why we've done so many Twitter spaces together, because it really does, you know, when you're loving yourself, when you're taking care of yourself, when you're doing those things to like fill your own cup, you're able to give and do so much more for, you know, the Web3 space, for other people, for your family, for everyone.
Yeah, it's why, you know, I love that whole piece. And it's why, you know, like, you know, our mantra here on the podcast is simple, right? We is greater than me. But I always have to caveat, like right after I say it, because I say, but you can't be a part of a greater we until you're the best me that you can be, right? And it's like that, you really have to, and there is that external pressure of like, if I'm taking care of myself, I'm selfish. And if you kind of take a step back, you realize when you take care of yourself, you're able to give more of yourself. And so you're able to show up more, you're able to be more aware, set yourself up for more success. And so I loved, when you reached out about the self-love club, and I immediately love that component. And I will say, like, I mean, pre-Web3, I was extremely guilty of not knowing how to take care of myself. Like, my daughters were nearby, I could pamper and we'd spoil the hell out of them, hang out with friends. But if it was like me time, it was like, okay, how am I giving back? What am I working on? Where am I? Like, it was, I just was, that was a struggle of mine. And I've never been one like that, like, figures out like the boundary side of the house. It's more of like, just like, it's like reverse engineering. Like, Brian, you got sick after New York because you did these things. Like, can we try not to do them, again, moving forward? Talk to us a little bit about Self-Love Club. Give us a little bit of framework on what that is, and where people can find out some more information about it.
Yes. Oh my God. Self-Love Club is something that I know we are all super excited to see come to life. It's something that, in our individual spaces, we have all been talking about it. Myself and Fari and Diamond Doll, we've actually met up at different conferences this whole year, right? Like, we met at San Diego Con, we were at South by Southwest, we were at New York, and we've all kind of bonded on the common idea of like needing to take care of ourselves. And like I mentioned, after New York, that was really like, I was down for like a month, and that was like, while I wasn't in bed for a full month, it was still a month of like struggling just to do the bare minimum. And I realized that, that 4 days of crazy cost me a month, right? And that really started to kind of sink in for me. And so we all got together and started to talk, and it was like, when I was in New York, it wasn't really showing myself any kind of love. It was like, if anything, it was like, I'm late for the next thing. I was just constantly kind of beating myself trying to get where I needed to go, and get done what I needed to get done. And so we came back and we started talking about it, and we're like, these conferences are amazing. Like, I love these conferences. I'm probably one of the few people who's had the privilege. I get to bring my son and my husband with me to all these conferences. And so, like, I really get to have a really beautiful experience every time I go. And, but the number one thing that was noticed was there is no prioritization for wellness. None. If anything, it feels like the opposite right now.
Yeah.
And so that's really what we wanted to create. Our whole mission with the Self-Love Club is to curate space for wellness in Web3, to help our friends be able to prioritize mental health and physical well-being and personal growth. Because truly, like we were just saying, those times when I am like nourishing my body and getting sleep, and I'm taking care of my mental health and things that I need to do, I'm able to show up and I'm able to do more, and I can be a better leader, and I can be a better friend and wife and mom and everything. So, that is kind of where the Self-Love Club came from, was just that idea of we really want to curate space and we want to bring that to life. And so we are, you could definitely follow us on Twitter at the Self-Love Club. And we are actually, so what we're doing is we've attached ourselves so far already to 3 different conferences. We're going to be at MidwestCon this week. So if anyone else is going to be at MidwestCon, you can see us Friday. We're going to be powering the Wellness Lounge and for the MidwestCon conference. And then we will also be at Art Basel and at San Diego Con. But really, our goal is to curate space at all of the conferences. And it'll be like a healthy little intermission to be able to step away and prioritize your health, whether that's through a guided meditation or a Reiki session or a massage, or just a moment to sit and chill and be creative and network with friends in a different type of space.
I love that. And we might have to, I know Mike, our sponsor, Crypto Business Conference, listens to this. We might have to figure out how we can make that happen there in San Diego as well in October. I love that idea of that, it's that in real life reminder too, right? Because it's easy for us to, I mean, we've all been guilty of it. Take care of yourself. We close we pause our Discord, Mondays 9 to 5, every Monday 9 to 5 for mental health. And for some people, it was like, why are you telling me what to do? I can take that on myself. And it was like, actually, it's for our team. Like, we need to give our team a reset and a break. And it's a way for us to be like, hey, the mental health channel is open. The rest of the Discord channels are paused during these hours. And, it's not perfect, right? Because there's different time zones and things. But I love like the more reminders and like the people that are owning it, right? Because I think the more it becomes like natural and okay. And I find that now, like in Twitter spaces, people that are opening up about neurodiversity and like what they've gone through are doing it in like a very not like in just like throwing it around as like a trigger, but like they're doing it because they're comfortable now. And I remember a year ago, I was one of the very few, right? And it was like, wait, Brian did what? He talked about what? And so it's comforting to see a lot of those movements as well. As far as 90s Babes go and like where you're at with the project, one of the things, it was brought to my attention. I have a really close friend that has 90s Babes. I dragged her into Web3, and she is like one of the smartest, brightest humans that I know in my world. And one of the things she brought up to me, and she knew when you and I were having the interview today, and she's like, I love to know Danielle's opinion. So I'm just curious, her view was like, hey, Brian, I love what's going on in this space, but there's also sometimes that feeling of, women-led projects or women struggling to support each other as much as maybe we should, or, kind of having a little bit of that like competition or stepping on each other's toes. And I will say from like, as like the cis white guy perspective, like I love all the women projects that are in our collection. It feels very harmonious, but I know there are probably some others, and this isn't male, female, or non-binary. It's just more of like, how have you looked at like the kind of like that importance of like kind of getting along, but also just recognizing like sometimes some people or some projects might not be just like a perfect match, and you kind of have to work through that. What would you say to someone that like, I think she wants to launch a project, but I think that's actually one of her hesitations is like, I don't get along with a lot of other women and if there's other women-led projects, it might make that assumption. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts on that are really like, there's no room for competition here in Web3. That is just like from the second I entered, I just kind of dropped that. That feels very Web2. It feels very not something I'd like to see continue. I'm one of my favorite sayings, and I'm sorry for everyone who's heard me say this probably a million times in Twitter spaces, but it's rising tides lift all boats. I truly believe that. I really think, we're still early. There's still time. There's no need to, be cutthroat and competitive. Those projects, those people definitely exist. I think that, not everybody has that same mindset. So, my suggestion would be to surround yourself with people who have what you want, whether that's just the mindset or the outlook or the perspective. But I'm always been really big. We mentioned it in the beginning. Anytime there's an opportunity to lift somebody else up, to bring them on stage, to share a Twitter space, to throw their name into the room, if there's an opportunity, that's normally my first go. And I'm a big believer in what goes around comes around. So I really believe that if we can continue, especially the women in this space, we are still the smaller number in this space. So the more that we can support each other and shine a light on each other, it just helps us all succeed in the long run.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I will tell you, I'm getting literally my text messages are blowing up. We for those who are listening, we are recording this live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook. And I got a whole bunch of text messages saying, I just minted a 90s babe. I just minted a 90s babe. So I love that. Gregarious, who's been a past guest, he already has the rare Velma that he gets to rock. And I was very bitter. I believe I'm the one that messaged him, or we were messaging during the mint day. And then he's like, look what I got. And there was definitely some jealousy on that side. And I know Drew minted one as well. And I also just think there's something fun about the art. It's something fun. Like when my daughters, and most people listen to the podcast know, like my daughters have their own ledger, and I let them go through my wallet and pick, out their different ones. And they all love the 90s Babes art, jumps out at them. And I laugh because there are certain things I try to get my daughters to watch or pay attention to. And they have no interest, including Care Bears, which I just bought some Care Bear NFTs. And my daughter's like, no. But then there's the other side where my middle daughter's scrunchied out with the slap bracelets. When I have to remind her, I showed her that. I'm like, look at this. This is showing it from the 90s, not from where you're at there. I'm curious, Self Love Club, 90s Babes, as we kind of pull this together, what are you most excited about? Like, you have some of the events coming up. You have 90s Babes, which we're just gonna manifest and put out there. That that we're gonna mint out. Oh, Travi just messaged too that he minted one. Look at that. Literally my texts are minting out. Well done there, NFT 365. And I'm just curious, like, what are some of the things that you're either looking forward to, or even maybe some of the 90s Babes new holders can look forward to over the next couple months.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's a lot, honestly. We've been busy, we've been really busy building and working and continuing to form new partnerships and continuing to build things behind the scenes. So there is a lot of things that are still under wraps, just, legal reasons. Unfortunately, Web2 legal side of things does not move as fast as Web3. So, that takes a little bit longer to be able to fully roll out. But we have been getting a ton of requests to do another party. So we are scoping out what that's going to look like for our holders. So if you missed the first one, don't worry. There is going to be a chance to have another party with us, hopefully here very soon. We've also got, some fun things in the works. I mentioned our book showed up. That is something that I know we're all super, super excited for. I actually have a copy right here. So the book is called I Love My Happy Mama. And it's a board book, and it's written by a mom who was struggling with postpartum depression really severely. And she was able to take that experience and that pain that she went through and really like transmute it into this beautiful book to support mothers. So this is something, really close to my heart. And we got 10,000 copies in the garage. And so right now what we're doing is we are lining up different organizations that we're going to get to go out to in person and donate these books and give it to like moms here who really need them. So that's one thing that we're really looking forward to. We've got the Women Without Wallets initiative that is finally live. This one's exciting. We have all of our babe holders and all of our new babe holders. Everyone's eligible to jump into our Discord and nominate someone in their life who does not have a wallet yet. So the idea here is that what we're going to do is we'll do live onboarding sessions. We'll get on a Zoom meeting face-to-face, and we'll actually help onboard them, set up their wallet, and then send them a 90s Babes as their first NFT. That was a huge barrier for me entering the space. I know that might sound silly to some people, but I remember kind of lurking on Twitter and saying to Steve, I don't have the profile pic, so it doesn't work yet. And it was silly, but as soon as I got that first NFT, I felt like a part of, and it really kind of sparked that, okay, I'm ready to dive in further. So our thought and our goal here is that we can help, 100 different women and onboard them into the space in doing so. So that's something that we're kicking off. And then, yeah, man, we've got framed prints rolling out to holders. We've got some more 90s Babes merch that's going to be coming out soon. And then we've got the partnership with Michael and David Uslan. That's something that we formed a few months ago. They are the producers, the executive producers on all the Batman movies, a board of directors at Comic-Con, lots of really cool things that they're involved in. So we are cooking up something really special for our 90s Babes holders that are going to get first access to it. That is all I'm allowed to say about it right now. But
I think I would say that alone has the excitement, of the project. And I also love, this is also a great reason for those that are listening that are NFT owners, having patience and recognizing like some things like Web2, legality doesn't move at our speed. There's also things that like it's going to take longer, not because we don't know better, but because there are moving parts where other people's lives change and things, kind of move around. I love, that you're donating the books, and from like kind of like the behalf of the holders. I love the collaborations. I mean, you partnered with like the roller skates out of the jump, right? And I would argue a lot of NFT projects the people running them have never partnered before, right? That's a whole new world. And I can recognize that can be scary for a lot of people. I've been getting a lot of, creators or influencers reaching out and saying, Brian, here's my contract I was just forwarded by this brand. Like, what should I do? Because they've never signed an influencer deal before. And so a lot of those things we have to also just recognize are, sometimes take longer and are new for some of the people, but there's also ones that are like, there's so many moving parts going on. So I love all the things that you have going on, Danielle. It's been super fun, for us, to not only become fast friends, but be able to, hang out IRL, love supporting everything 90s Babes is doing as well. We minted as part of, our collection. And I will just say the other part of this too is like, that idea, like, you reaching out immediately and being like, hey, what's your wallet? Let me, throw you a 90s babe and take care of you. And thankfully enough, the 90s babe that was in our wallet, didn't actually get actually taken from me. It wasn't one of the ones that was stolen, but in that art of paying it forward, for anyone that listens to this in the next 48 hours, so 48 hours from launch, if you tag the NFT 365 podcast account and 90s Babes account on Twitter and just let us know like your favorite part of the episode or your favorite thing about being 90s Babes, we'll pick one person and we're going to gift that one that Danielle gifted us when our wallet was getting compromised, as a way of kind of paying it forward and hopefully rewarding those that are listening and tuning in each time. So Danielle, thanks so much for coming on and hanging out with me, and excited for more in-person events and Self-Love Club. I signed the pledge. I'm all in on that and supporting. So we'll include those notes as well.
I love it. Thanks so much for having me here today, Fanzo. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And thank you, for those that, there are some, great events. Definitely have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Crypto Business Conference. It is October 9th to the 11th in beautiful San Diego. I mean, there really is nothing that replaces, handshakes, hugs. I like to say turn the hashtags or the NFTs into, hugs and selfies. And I think the beauty of that also is coming together at events where you have kind of shared interest and common passion. And even if you're not fully in the space, you haven't got your wallet yet, it's a great place to kind of be the place you get your first wallet, or the place that you kind of talk to people about some of those first projects. So definitely check that out. It is in our show notes below. And lastly, I'll use that quote that Danielle shared, in that rising tide lifts all boats, right? To me, that's the premise of Web3. It's the first time in my career that I've truly felt that, when we're building, it's building it for all of us, not just building it for one individual or one person or one project. And that doesn't mean that everyone is doing it that way, but I do believe the opportunities are there. And so I'll challenge everyone to kind of take that mantra and, even ask yourself, like, what am I doing in the Web3 space that is helping, lift the tides of all in the space? We need more education. We need more amplification. We need more onboarding. We need more hand-holding, because, there are a lot of great people that can really make a great impact on this space, and they just need you to kind of help them on the journey. So hopefully everyone kind of takes that up. And as always, until tomorrow, make it a great day, everybody. Cheers.